was pretty good, actually. I think, I just watched back last month's video, and I think, kind of a lot of what I said, uh, I think resonated pretty well. So last month's goal was stick to an hour of passive, an hour in active, 30 minutes of passive, 50 minutes of grammar for a month. So I did not do any grammar, but I would say we hit the hour of active, 30 minutes of passive half of the days. And really, the reason for that was mainly I had a really big trip. The third week of February here. I went to Europe. And so kind of the week and a couple of the days around that were really spent kind of fully preparing for that trip. And obviously, I wasn't really spending a lot of time on Korean while I was there. I was really, really focused on what I was doing. And so that week and the kind of days around that, I was not studying Korean. But the first 2 weeks of February were really solid. Were really, really solid. And I pulled up, I have my history here. And we can go back to the start of February. And you can see kind of before, or you can see when I finished Singles Inferno. But I was watching this podcast, and in the last video I basically said like I couldn't understand like anything they were saying, but I started watching the Dex interviews or listening to the Dex interviews, and so every day in the car ride to school and on the way back, so that's like 50 minutes a day. I would just listen to these interviews, and I just listen over and over and over all the interviews. I listened to basically all the interviews, and I could actually understand quite a good amount of what they were saying, way more than that podcast before. I don't know if like their vocabulary was just kind of complex or they were talking kind of fast. I don't know. I remember asking one of my Korean friends, and they said they were talking normal. So maybe that's just harder. But yeah, these interviews, I thought I could understand like a good amount. And also a couple of them I had watched before with subtitles, and that really helped. Like I found like when I would watch it, I would pick more stuff up, and then I'd re-listen to it, and I'd pick even more stuff up. And yeah, and so those were really good, and that was like really like 40 to 50 minutes a day. And then I was watching season 1 of Singles Inferno. So I watched through the whole season. So that's it's 8 episodes. That's like 8 hours, which is quite a lot. And I just finished that on the flight back from Europe, which I guess is not that much, 8 hours in 30 days. But if the goal is 30 minutes to an hour a day, yeah, I don't know, it's not that great, but I mean it's pretty good. I think what this month has really been all immersion, right? It's really been all immersion. And I remember I stopped the Anki. I'm not doing grammar. It's really all about the immersion. And I think that really helped a lot. Like it really started to make me see the benefit, because I talked last month a little bit about how like I think in the past I'd really got stuck in like Anki would take me so long. I would do an hour of Anki and I'd be like, wow, I did a lot of Korean today, but like you're really not making a lot of progress. But like in the immersion, even in the kind of 2 weeks I was really doing it, like I really felt like I was making a lot of progress in the kind of level I was understanding. And so, of course I don't know a lot, but I do know quite a lot of the common words. And what would really come up is there were a lot of sentences where it was like I know all the words in grammar, but I still don't understand sentences. And those kinds of sentences, like the Anki is not going to help you with that. Like if anything, it's going to make it worse. And the only way to fix those is immersion, right? And so that's how you know that you still have immersion, like to so much benefit. And that like where the benefit is going is that like you need to listen and you need to like read to have any chance of understanding. And so as I kind of those first 2 weeks really kind of went more and more into the immersion and kind of stayed consistent, I think I really found the benefit of that. And with season 1 of Singles Inferno, I watched the whole thing with no English subs. And that was a little difficult. Some parts I got a little lost. I think that was kind of like I really wanted to kind of feel the embrace the ambiguity mindset that Refill talks about. And so in season 3, there were a lot of parts where I would, I'd watch it and then I'd watch it in English and I'd watch it again in Korean. But I think, long term, if you want to watch, pure Korean content, you gotta get over the English subs at some point, right? Like they're not going to be there forever. Ultimately, they're a crutch, and you just got to embrace the ambiguity. So that's what I did, and I thought it went pretty well. I think those first 2 weeks I found a sustainable way to do around an hour of passive and an hour of active. So again, like the hour of passive was basically free on my way to school and home from school. And there are a couple times I kind of check out in the car, but most of the time I'm listening, especially if it's something I'm interested in. And the hour of active is basically like 1 hour of the TV show, which is pretty easy to commit to. And, compared to what I was doing before, that's like really miles more than what I was doing before. Again, it makes you a little bit regret, you're 9 months in, you could have been doing that for 9 months, but you just got to look forward. And I wrote down, I think everything requires a conscious choice. And that's absolutely the case. And so there's always going to be more entertaining things than Korean. And so like English YouTube, TikTok, what I kind of had been thinking about it, and this is probably a terrible analogy, but like comparing it to drugs, right? So even if like Korean is enjoyable, like I enjoy watching Korean, right? So maybe you have some low tier drugs, but like TikTok is like heroin, right? That is just insanely addictive. You feel amazing, right? TikTok's amazing. And so even if you like watching Korean content, right? TikTok is always going to really kind of be higher value. And so then it's really just kind of like a mental thing. Like, okay, am I like a sentient human who can be like, TikTok is not valuable. I want to learn Korean. I'm going to put it down and watch Korean. And so it just requires a conscious choice. And so there were a couple times I found that a little bit difficult, but I think especially when you get in the pattern, right, of every day, when I go in the car, I put on my interview, right? And when I'm at lunch, I'm watching the Netflix show, and I finish the Netflix episode before I go to bed, right? And that really helps kind of put that pattern in. And yeah, I really feel like an hour of passive, an hour in active, I feel like that's a really good place to be, right? Like if I can do that for a couple of months, like I think I'll make a lot of progress, a lot of progress. And I got a comment recently. I want to thank Azar here. And he talked about a couple of things. Mainly like this line really resonated with me. And this is where I talked about in the last video. Like you can't think about the 2-year, the 3-year time scale. You really just got to think about like my hobby is Korean learning. And every day I do my Korean learning and I enjoy it. And that's today. And eventually, you get better, but you just like, if it's a thing you want to do, you just got to enjoy the doing it every day, right? You really can't get caught up in the long-term goal. And the other thing is kind of talking about how, especially learning online, like I think that's the one kind of, I think, thing that you lose from immersion learning is immersion learning is very isolated, right? Like an immersion learning talks about how classroom learning is usually bad, which I do agree with. Like usually you're just in a classroom with a bunch of other people speaking like terrible Korean, right? Or terrible whatever language you're learning. But at least it's kind of communal. And so with immersion learning, it's very isolating. And I think it's very easy to, as this comment points out, kind of get caught up in like, I only hear native speakers. The only like Koreans I talk to are native speakers, right? Like I don't interact with any other Korean learners. And so it can be very easy to kind of develop like an inaccurate kind of representation of your own skill. And so, thank you for this comment. I found that really, really insightful. And so, I think looking to next month, this Europe trip was really big. I had been working on the thing I was in Europe for a while. And again, this was like basically like 1.5 weeks. I was just completely not thinking about Korean at all. And so now that that's done, I have like really like March looks super chill. Like I have a lot of time to dedicate to the things I want to do. And Korean is one of them. And so I think looking forward, I just want to try to stick to like the hour passive and an hour of active a day. And I think I can do it. And I'm really not worried about Anki at all. I'm really not worried about grammar at all. I think grammar actually probably is important. I really need to just like suck it up and get through the talk to me in Korean. I mean, it's like 15 minutes a day and I totally have 15 minutes a day, but I think that's what we're looking at for next month. And I think it should go really well. Again, I thought the first 2 weeks of this month were Probably the most immersion I've done and the most like sustainable that immersion has been in my all of my time learning Korean. So I think we're feeling pretty good. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. The last video did pretty well. It got like a copyright notice with the New Jeans video I put on, but it was like a copyright, but then it's like nothing's gonna happen. But they just like told me that I used someone else's video. And so today I was looking for another video to maybe use, but I actually was like, oh, maybe the other people aren't gonna be cool with it. So I know New Jeans, like it's gonna get like recognized, but they're cool with it. So that's why I put this on. But yeah, if you guys have other ideas for stuff in the background, maybe you like more, I'm really open to suggestions here. But yeah, thank you for following along. Thank you for the comments. There were a couple in the last video. Again, really helps. Just kind of talking to other learners. I started this channel because, I watched all the other people make their diaries, and I found it really interesting to kind of hear their perspectives over time, and just to know that there's other people out there. And so I think it's really fun that that's kind of me now too. So I will see you guys in a month. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.